Thank you, Chairman Joyce, as always. I appreciate it. Just if you could follow up on the distinguished member from Iowa's questions on Blue Lotus. I mean, talk about its success a little bit, but then talk about what we need to make it more successful and get the top of the kingpins, which we never seem to quite get, or they operate with impunity in a Mexican jail that they control and run. And that's not really getting them. And then talk about why we couldn't have done this type of an operation a year ago.
So no, it's really about resources. And, there's a lot of priorities. We've been spending a lot of time and energy on human trafficking and human smuggling, trying to, figure out a way to disrupt the flows along the southwest border. So you have to just pick and choose where you want to divert the resources. So we certainly don't want to pull away from the good work that's being done on human trafficking and human smuggling. But you do have to find the resources to divert to fentanyl. And Operation Blue Lotus is just one example of everybody sort of putting their resources together to focus their law enforcement and investigative sort of focus at these two ports of entry that we actually believe are big, big part of how the fentanyl is coming into the country. So no, we're asking for additional funding in 24. We're going to continue to make it a priority. We're going to continue to try to bring on additional TCIUs and vetted units, get them the training here in the U.S., and increase our partnerships with countries, our foreign partners, so that we could continue our great work here. I think you were here when I mentioned the successes, the 36,700 criminal arrests that we made, the 27,000 pounds of fentanyl seizures, and then just you mentioned Blue Lotus, nearly 8,000 pounds of narcotics seized in just over 30 days, which is truly remarkable. So, we see firsthand that if we send the staff to the border to assist our CBP partners, there will be great results, and I think you're going to see more of that in the coming months.
And where are we in trying to attack the heads of the cartels, which, Obrador has been totally hands-off and just had a peace, a truce, to not have an open warfare?
Look, that's the goal of every HSI investigation, is to pull on every thread until you can get as high up in the organization as possible. It's not just as a result of our work in Mexico and our Mexican partners, but even when an individual overdoses here in the U.S. and our work with the state and locals, we're right there on the scene. We're looking at their phones, figuring out who they last made contact with, and following that all the way back as far as we can, as high up in the chain as we can, to target the head of the snake.
But the head of the snake, I mean, we know who the head of those cartels are, Jalisco and the Sinaloa cartel. We know roughly where they are. And why are you unable to get the Mexican government to help us target them?
It's a delicate situation. I mean, it's some things the Mexican government is going to be willing to do, and some things they aren't so willing to do.
The government's willing to tolerate having the heads of the cartels run the cartels. We know where they are. We know who they are, and they're okay with that.
We work with our foreign partners as best we can, and for the things that they're willing to help us with, we accept it, and we do try to push them in certain areas where we can. But at the end of the day, we have very little legal authority in Mexico to do anything ourselves.
Well, we thank you for working with them and doing that, but I don't call that partnership. That's a different word. It's hardly partners when they don't partner the whole way up to the top, and we just indicted the head of the Mexican government's all their efforts on drug trafficking for a decade. Their top guy, we just indicted him, and he's the one we shared all of our secrets with for over a decade, and we trusted implicitly. And of course, now we know he was on the cartel's payroll the entire time. So there hasn't been a partnership, so to speak. And I think a lot of Americans are fed up with it. We're fed up with 100,000 deaths. So I yield back.